So hi, my name's Adeline Hardman. I'm a public health specialist and I work for Babies and Beyond, and I'm here today to talk about Fussy. So firstly, I would say it's really important to try and keep meal times as relaxed as possible. You've got to remember that food is much more than just getting food into your body. It's a social experience as well. So when you can, try and sit around the table as a family to kind of talk about your day, engage your child in joining in that conversation and that process as well, because food's not just about getting food in the body. I think secondly, get your child involved in the process. It's really important for many reasons. Firstly, as they're toddlers and growing up, that they foster some independence. So things like help lay the table, help prepare the food. You can get your kids involved in the preparation and the baking and everything as well. Firstly, it makes it more exciting if they've been involved in it. And second of all, it's helped them with the whole process and the journey to the food. Not that they've just finished, stop playing, quick, I'm at the dining table now. So get them involved in that journey. The other thing I do is be careful with your portion sizes, because a child's stomach is actually the size of their fist, roughly. So have a look at the size of your child's fist. Sometimes we pile too much on their plate and then we think, oh, but they barely touched it. But actually 2 to 3 spoons of whatever they've just eaten is probably enough for them. So I would start off with smaller portions, and once they finish, they can always add more to it. But I'd start off small just because then it's not overwhelming. And the other thing I'd do is try and give your child some independence. So for example, if on the mealtime you're laying out, let's say you're having rice and meat and vegetables, lay it out on the table, let your child serve themselves if possible. Because again, that gives them an element of control, participation, that all the family are sharing from the same dish. Making pizzas together are great. Even making things like fruit salads together, letting the child choose all the different fruits that are going to go in, let them help chop and prepare them as well. Anything that's quite simple and straightforward, but also something that you as a family would normally eat. If you're trying to do something too creative or too different, then sometimes it can get a bit more stressful. So to start off with something familiar. So generally you find that fussy eating can be a bit of a phase. Quite often it's to do with asserting their independence. A child comes to a stage where actually there's not a huge amount they can always control in their life, because their schedule is often dictated to by their parents. However, what they put into their mouth at meal times is something they find they have a bit of control over. So quite often you find this fussy eating links in with that time when they suddenly realise that they're their own independent person as well. You have to remember, like all of us, have our own individual preferences, likes and dislikes. So you've also got to remember your child as an individual, and just because you really like a type of food, it doesn't mean they're going to. The other thing is as well, it can take, say, 10 to 15 times of trying something for a child to decide if they like it or not. So if they refuse it straight away at the first point, don't just think, that's it, they're never going to eat it again, Instead, maybe next week offer it again, but maybe offer it in a different form. Last time you baked it, this time why don't you try steaming it, or giving it some in the raw form or whatever. So generally I'd say introducing solid foods around 6 months old. You don't need to puree stuff when your baby's 6 months old. Start offering some textures, whether it's finger foods or different, for example, mashing something so it has a bit of texture rather than totally pureeing. And do offer a variety. I think some people feel quite cautious about offering things like different herbs, different spices, or different ingredients because they feel anxious. Is it something my child should have? There's very few things that your child can't have. So for example, things like salt, yeah, your child shouldn't be having that. For example, undercooked eggs, yeah, they shouldn't be having that. But most general household foods they can eat. So do experiment with different herbs and spices and things as well to make their meal times enjoyable and interesting. Start from a young age, because if all they're having is bland, pureed food for those first few months, then it's not really going to be that exciting. It's not going to be much of a exploration of food. Most important thing, which can be the hardest thing, is to stay as relaxed as possible, because you feel anxious that your child's not eating so much. It can be really frustrating when you've prepared a really nice food, you've tried to make it really interactive and your child's still not eating it. So try and stay as relaxed as possible, because if you start, getting really angry, if you start getting really frustrated, then that can make meal times quite stressful and can make a lot of tension around the meal time. I think staying relaxed is the easiest thing for me to say and sometimes the hardest thing for people to do, but it really does help.